Good day everyone, we are the Group 1 and we are going to discuss the introduction to strategic management, including its definition, characteristics, intents and processes as well as its benefits. First, let us define what is strategic management. Strategic management is an ongoing, dynamic, sequential process by which organization adapts in time to the external environment changes and effectively utilizes its existing potential. It includes long-term business goals and ways to achieve them, setting a scheduled process, control, and adjustment. Why do entities need to strategize? Any organization working in the market conditions is affected by many external factors. These factors usually negatively affect its performance. External factors may include changing market demands, existing competition, possible theft, unprotected commodity shortages, and a variety of other factors influencing the organization's existence. The organization's internal situation is as well important. It plays a crucial role in the status of the organization. These factors include financial and material resources, quality management, work environment, and important roles played by the people working in the organization. Only a well-designed strategy for ensuring a successful way to market targets, the ability to quickly adapt to changes in the environment, guarantee the success of the organization. To understand further, let us define what is strategy. In the most general terms, it is an action plan to achieve objectives which are usually focused on business development function, such as timely uncovering of significant problems and bringing together the efforts of all the departments of the company. It is also defined as the organization's goals and objectives. Major plans to be achieved in order to clearly define what the organization should do. Normally, the management assesses the following four key components. First, products and markets in which they are intended. Second, plan changes in the component. Third, competitive advantage to gain strong position in the market. And fourth, operational synergies. It is a detailed, comprehensive plan designed to help implement organization's mission and objectives. It has to be included in all levels of management. Also, each organization has its own unique strategy. It has to be developed simple and straightforward, otherwise it will be difficult to implement. It is described as an essential part of the company's development direction as basis which organizes daily activities of the company. Moreover, it focuses on solutions that are strategy elements, which includes the company's mission, goals, and challenges. Porter explained that the organization's strategy is a competitive weapon. According to Mintzberg, it is based on a thorough analysis of and response to the environment behavior. It is a strategic problem-solving process that adheres to the logic of strategic planning. Other authors, according to Grant, describe strategy in accordance with its intended purpose. To be in the right place at the right time with the right resources to be able to take advantage of the opportunities existing at the time. An organization's strategy is multifaceted. It can be viewed from a number of directions depending on which aspects of its actions are of interest to the organization. In spite of the different strategy profiles, there are four common elements of strategy. First, environment with its positive and negative aspects. Second, the highest level of mission statement, which is key performance targets. Third, analysis of the situation. And finally, arrangements for the use of available resources.
Characteristics of strategic management. As mentioned earlier, strategy is an action plan that an organization takes to pursue its goals and objectives. Strategia, in Greek terminology, meant the art of military command. It usually sets out a concrete goal and then answers the question of how best to reach that goal. The methods of reaching the goal can be viewed from different perspectives. Schwenker and Sperman highlighted these characteristics of strategic management. First, the strategy is a contingency plan that outlines what approach the firm should follow in different situations in response to changes in the environment or action taken by other people. It is not a single strategic move, but a series of sequences and actions in order to adapt to these changes that may affect the organization. Second, the strategy indicates the provisional approach that the firm will follow depending on the particular situation without going into full details. It has to be fine-tuned before it is actually implemented. Third, the strategy is based on an analysis of the situation, the environment, and possible impacts on the firm. It offers a differentiated perspective, allowing for complexity and uncertainties. The figure presents the intended, realized, and emerged strategy. An intended strategy is the strategy that an organization hopes to execute. Intended strategies are usually described in detail within an organization's strategic plan. A realized strategy is the strategy that an organization actually follows. Realized strategies are a product of a firm's intended strategy, or what the firm planned to do, the firm's deliberate strategy, or the parts of the intended strategy that the firm continues to pursue over time, and its emerged strategy. An emerged strategy is an unplanned strategy that arises in response to unexpected opportunities and challenges. As an analysis of the figure, in the first case, the intended strategy was executed according to what the organization had expected. So, the realized strategy is the same as the intended strategy. In a real-life situation, however, it is rarely possible to realize intended strategies completely, and so the realized strategies normally diverge to a greater or lesser extent from the intended strategies. This is what has happened in the second case, where the realized strategy diverged from the intended strategy because of the environmental changes that the organization needs to adapt to. Thus, the realized strategy is different from the intended strategy. In the third case, the realized strategy is the same as the emerged strategy as a result of many different decisions taken individually, since the organization may not have established any specified intended strategy.
Strategy content and strategy process. The strategy content relates to what the business actually does, whereas the strategy process relates to the way the business decides what it is going to do. The strategy content has three distinct decision areas: the products to be offered, the markets to be targeted, and the approach taken to competing. The product range covers the types and range of products that the firm supplies to its market. Market scope defines the customer groups and market segments that will be addressed by the firm. Competitive approach refers to the way in which the firm competes within its product market domain to sustain and develop its business in the face of competitive pressures. It reflects the way in which the firm tries to influence the customers to favor their offerings. Decisions about strategy content must be made in the light of understanding of external conditions and internal concerns, which was discussed earlier. In the strategy process, there are three different sets of strategy content: the existing strategy content, the desired strategy content, and the achieved strategy content. First, we shall tackle the link between existing strategy content and the strategy content achieved in the future. The way in which the business modifies its range of products, changes its customer base, and develops its competitive approach will be the results of a series of ongoing decisions and actions taken by the people who make up the organization. Next, the link between the existing strategy and desired strategy shows the way in which the decision about what the business wishes to achieve is taken and communicated mostly in the form of the entrepreneur's communication of their vision, the definition of a mission, the setting of objectives, and through informal discussion. Lastly, the link between the desired strategy content and achieved strategy content is manifest in the ability of entrepreneur to deliver the strategy content they desire for their organization. Two things may limit this. It must be both achievable, given the market conditions and the competitive forces present, and feasible in terms of the resources available to make the necessary investments. The degree of control the entrepreneur has over the organization. Moving on, common elements that are conducive to success are shown in the figure presented in this slide. According to Grant, to create a successful strategy, businesses should establish first their long-term goals, which must be simple and consistent. They should have a profound understanding of their competitive environment and has achieved an objective appraisal of resources. Of course, these basic characteristics should be implemented appropriately and effectively to achieve a successful strategy. A strategic business is a three-dimensional construct which identifies a particular market, specific market offers, and specific resources. Market offer is to be understood in a wide sense. including not only the central products and services, but complementary services, price conditions, and so on. The offer includes all the various measures within a marketing mix. It is important to understand that when identifying strategic businesses, it is not only differences in the basic products or services that must be taken into account, but also differentiated use of other elements of the marketing mix.
Next is the three stages of strategic management. In the scientific literature, Mintzberg, Lampelle, and Altran distinguish three stages of strategic management: a strategic analysis, strategy development, and strategy implementation. Strategic analysis refers to the process of conducting research on a company and its operating environment to formulate a strategy. Based on the strategic analysis of the organization associated with the environment, there are prevailing threats and opportunities. In this case, it is believed that the organization's success depends on whether it is able to detect the opportunities and successfully use them to its advantage, and to see and avoid threats that can derail the organization. Another very important step is the strategy development, which includes the organization's strategy for target orientation, definition of strategic alternatives for the preparation of solutions, evaluation, and final selection of strategic decisions. Strategy development is the process of identifying strategic options, selecting the most promising, and deciding how resources will be allocated across the organization to achieve objectives. The organization undergo a planning stage where the company proposes strategic alternatives. In simple terms, strategy development is where the organization come up with strategic alternatives or options and select the most promising that will lead the organization into the direction of reaching their goal. After the development phase of the organization's strategy, the next stage of the strategy is implementation, which includes the tasks of preparing the actors, resource allocation, and budget planning, accounting, and controlling procedures. Strategy implementation is the process by which an organization translates its chosen strategy into action plans and activities. After assessing strategies and proposing alternatives, we reach a recommendation to implement the most quantitatively profitable strategy. After producing a recommendation, we iteratively repeat the entire process. Strategies must be implemented, assessed, and reassessed. They must change because business environments are not static. Two models of strategic management process. Many businesses are compelled to make dramatic improvements not only to compete and prosper, but also to survive. The strategies in an organization determine how it utilizes its resources to meet the objectives of the organization. The organization is expected to make the maximum utilization of its resources through its strategies. This brings to the fore the importance of determining how effectively the prescriptive and emergent approaches can meet the needs of today's businesses when formulating strategies. First is the prescriptive approach. A prescriptive strategy is one where the objective has been defined in advance and the main elements have been developed before the strategy commences. The prescriptive approach regards strategy development as a systematized and deterministic process where analysis of the organization, its performance, and external environment leads to the formation of a rational long-term plan. Such an approach usually begins with an analysis of the outside environment and the resources of the company as presented in the figure. The objectives of the organization are then developed from this. There then follows the generation of strategic options to achieve the objectives, from which one or more may be chosen. The chosen option is then implemented. Theories included in the model of prescriptive strategy process are competition-based, resource-based, game theory-based, cooperation, and network theories. Next is the emergent approach. Emergent strategies are implemented in organizations in the absence of specificity in the goals and vision of the organization. The fundamental difference between prescriptive and emergent strategy is that prescriptive focuses on directions and control, while emergent opens up the notion of strategic learning. An emergent strategy does not have the same fixed objective as the prescriptive approach. The whole process is more experimental with various possible outcomes depending on how matters develop. An emergent strategy is one whose final objective is unclear and whose elements are developed during the course of its life as the strategy proceeds. As we can see from the figure presented, the early stages of emergent strategy may be similar to prescriptive strategy, analysis of the environment and resources. But then, the process becomes more circular, learning, and experimental. It was through learning that entities learned how to adapt to new business environment. This is also in line with the survival-based theories of emergent strategic management, which suggest that in order to survive in an unstable environment, firms have to adapt to that environment.
Next is strategy is also a hierarchical concept. Strategy takes three different levels. These are corporate, business, and functional strategy levels. Moreover, these levels correspond with activities of managers in different parts of organization. First is the corporate strategy. It is the set of explicit or implicit decision rules that determines what business a firm will be or will not be in, and how it will allocate resources among them. It is typically located at headquarters. It is the organization's highest level strategic plan, defining the company's general priorities and directions, as well as how they can be accomplished by strategic management activities. It determines which industries the company will enter and which it will leave. This strategy also has to do with how the corporation allocates both financial and human resources among its various businesses. Second is the business strategy. It shows how a firm develops and sustains a competitive advantage within an industry or determines how a company will compete within a given industry. It is a series of competitive steps and activities that a company employs to attract customers, compete effectively, improve efficiency, and meet organizational objectives. In other words, it is a set of detailed collection of strategies, activities, and objectives that spell out how a company can succeed in a specific market or markets with a specific product or set of products or services. Last is the functional strategy. It is a set of decisions made in marketing, operations, finance, research and development, and human resources that support the business strategy. It is the short term game plan for a key functional area within a company. This strategy is concerned with a relatively limited plan that specifies the objectives for particular purposes, as well as the resource allocation among various operations with a functional region. This strategy makes it easier for the employee to work together. Functional tactics help organizations meet their market and organizational goals. Next is the strategic management benefits. The benefits of strategic management can be calculated in terms of improved efficiency, higher value added, and the development of competitive advantage. The benefits of strategic management can be separated into the following ones. First is the ability to detect problems before they are pronounced. Second is the ability to effectively change the scope or reposition a current one. Third is an objective approach to the problems of the formation of the organization. Fourth is the performance improvement strategies and techniques. Fifth is the internal and external process of the minimization of negative impact. Sixth is the different levels of management and coordination of activities of the subsystem to the long-term goals. Seventh is the internal communication system. Eight is the creative and future-oriented thinking formation. And lastly, the combination of the above-mentioned steps in the system that allows gaining a competitive advantage.
So that would be the end of our report as we discuss the introduction to strategic management. Thank you for your time.